Kasali sat with his sick mom in the hospital, tears rolling slowly down his cheeks like a leaking tap of sorrow. He held her cold, frail hand and said, "Mom, they say if I do not join the cult, I will die, or all my wealth will be gone and I will be forever poor." His mom, Mrs. Amina, with a voice as faint as a whisper on the wind, said, "My son, what are you saying? Please make me understand." Kasali replied, "Mom, I thought I had all wealth with God's grace, but I did not know it was the devil's wealth I achieved." Kasali continued speaking to his mom, his voice trembling like a candle flame in a storm. "If I do not join the cult in 3 days, I will be dead or poor for life. And Mom, I can't lose my wealth. If I do, you will die, as there will be no money to be paying for the huge sum of daily hospital bill." Kasali's mom had been diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, a vicious type of cancer that spreads through the blood like poison in a river. The doctors said it was aggressive, no mercy, no waiting. Every single day, her treatment devoured over 500K, chemotherapy, isolation, transfusions, a price tag only the rich or the desperate could endure. And so Kasali was trapped, stuck between two burning fires. He didn't want his mother to die, but neither could he bring himself to join a cult that dealt in darkness. His mum, weak and shaking, slowly raised herself from the bed, bones creaking like an old wooden door. She stared him straight in the eyes and asked, "But when did you get involved in this situation? How did this happen that I was not aware of? Please, my son, explain everything to me." Kasali, eyes heavy with regret and heart pounding like a village drum at midnight, sat up properly and began to talk. In an unknown city in Africa, there lived a man named Kasali, a 27-year-old. Throughout his life, he had known nothing but poverty. He came from a struggling family and had to fight tooth and nail just to finish his university education. Kasali studied civil engineering in a public university and graduated 5 years ago. Yet he still had no stable source of income, no job, and no funds to establish himself. The little work he was doing barely fed him, and on good days he managed to support his mother with whatever crumbs he could gather. Some of his friends had introduced him to ritual paths, but he flat out rejected them. His reply was always the same. He would rather remain poor with a clear conscience than get rich through darkness. So one day, Kasali got a job with a federal government agency, specifically the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. It was 100% aligned with his field of study, civil engineering. He was so happy. It felt like his dreams were finally beginning to come true. Kasali was known to be extremely intelligent and naturally brilliant, the kind of mind that stood out in any room. In this particular job, the federal government had a policy. They often rewarded the most brilliant minds with independent contracts, life-changing opportunities that could transform an entire destiny overnight. Though Kasali had not even spent up to a year in the ministry, many of his co-workers already recognized his potential. They spoke of him with respect, even admiration. He was a rising star. As Kasali began earning a reasonable amount of money, he slowly started mingling with people from the high class, not just those within his engineering field, but even outside it. He found himself brushing shoulders with the rich, the powerful, and the well-connected. It was during this time that he became close to a very wealthy man named Dima. Funny enough, back in the days when Kasali was still jobless, Dima hardly paid him any attention. But now, Kasali was the one eager to be seen in big circles, hungry for access, for networks, for relevance. And so Dima and Kasali became friends. One day, Kasali was chatting with Dima about his job at the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. Jokingly, he said, "Imagine if the federal government assigns a Federal Express road construction project to me. I've hit the jackpot." Dima laughed it off, saying, "Ha ha ha, you've not even spent 2 years in the ministry and you already want such a huge contract. You're highly ambitious, bro." Kasali replied, "Is it not good?" Dima smirked and said, "Well, only if you can pay the price." Kasali chuckled, brushing the comment off, and they parted ways that day. Months later, while Kasali was in his office, news suddenly broke. The government was planning to allocate a contract worth $1 billion for the completion of a major federal highway project. They were looking for an expert in the industry, someone with serious experience. When Kasali heard the news, he simply looked away and brushed it off. After all, he hadn't even spent many years in the ministry. Deep down, he felt he didn't really qualify. That evening, Kasali and Dima met up at their usual spot, discussing life, work, and random thoughts like they always did. Once again, Kasali brought up the news about the government planning to assign a massive project to an experienced worker in the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. There, Dima asked casually, "How much is the contract?" Kasali replied, $1 billion. Dima's eyes widened in shock. "This is massive. Are you not interested in getting this?" Kasali laughed it off. "Haha, it's not for small fish like me." Dima paused for a second, then leaned in slightly and said in a deep, serious tone, "Seriously, I can help you get this." All of a sudden, Kasali felt a shift. He sensed the weight in Dima's voice. It was no longer a joke. He calmed down, now curious. Dima continued, "This will be a life-changing opportunity for you. A chance to become somebody in life, not just another man waiting for monthly salary. Getting this big contract will transform your life completely into a real big man." He leaned back slightly, voice firm. "And if you want more connections, more power, more influence, you need this contract." Kasali's mind started racing, fast. His heartbeat picked up as visions rushed in. He imagined changing his family's story, lifting them from suffering, mingling with wealthy men, walking into rooms with power. Without thinking too long, Kasali replied, "How can I get this?" Dima smiled calmly and told him not to worry, that he would win it. He assured Kasali that he had the right connections and would try his best to make sure the contract went to him. When Kasali got home that day, he sat alone and shook his head. A small laugh escaped his lips. Dima must be joking, he thought. How can someone like me, of all people, win a contract worth that kind of money? That night, Dima went to visit an herbalist and spoke to him about Kasali. After listening, the herbalist handed Dima a powerful black soap, thick, dark, and ominous. He instructed Dima to give it to Kasali and told him it must be used to bathe. However, Dima knew better. He couldn't just hand Kasali the soap directly, not when Kasali had already made it clear that he wouldn't want anything to do with dark means. So Dima devised another way, a quiet method. It was a calm Saturday morning, the kind where the wind barely moved and the sky looked like it was holding its breath. The next day was the weekend. That morning, Dima showed up at Kasali's place. They talked for a while, casually, like old friends. Then, without warning, Dima said, "You need to breathe, bro. Come out. I'm taking you somewhere to unwind. Just relax for once." Kasali was hesitant at first. Something in him felt unsure, but he agreed. Dima picked him up in his sleek SUV and the two drove in silence, the city blurring past the windows. Streets turned into corners, corners into emptiness. Eventually, they arrived at a quiet, secluded compound. The building was minimalist, modern, clean, with dark tinted glass and a small wooden sign that read, Royal Kingsman Spa, Cleanse, Heal, Elevate. The compound looked like something straight out of a luxury travel vlog, sleek, serene, and quiet. Water fountains bubbled at the entrance. Scented mist floated in the air like perfume from another realm. A friendly receptionist, dressed in a silk uniform, welcomed them with warm smiles and handed them glasses of green tea the moment they stepped in. This place is fine dye, Dima said, sipping his tea with a satisfied grin. Kasali nodded. It looked like the kind of hidden paradise only executives and celebrities knew about. Inside, everything whispered peace, soft music in the background, elegant wooden decor, warm ambient lighting, and the calming aroma of eucalyptus and citrus drifting through the air like memory. I booked the full VIP cleanse package for you, Dima said. Just enjoy yourself. No questions. You deserve it. A spa attendant soon arrived and guided Kasali down a long hallway lit by glowing candles and lined with vibrant indoor plants. The treatment room they entered was minimalist yet inviting. A rainfall shower stood in one corner, a heated massage bed rested at the center, and a wall-length mirror cast soft golden light across the space. Moments later, the attendant returned with a tray. On it, a rolled towel, a small bowl of dark soap, and a card that read, Ancient African Detox Ritual, Skin Purity Formula, Activated Black Herb Blend. This is our premium organic blend, the attendant explained gently. It draws out negative energy and clears the body of stress and fatigue. Very popular with our high-level clients. Kasali chuckled. If it will make me sleep like a baby, I'm all in. He stepped into the rainfall shower. The water was warm, cascading gently over his skin. Steam rose softly around him, curling in the air like whispers. The attendant gently applied the soap, massaging it across Kasali's shoulders and arms with slow, deliberate motions. It smelled earthy, clean, but something about it felt heavier than it should have, like it carried more than just herbs. What's inside this soap? Kasali asked casually. The attendant smiled calmly. Only the finest herbs. It's been used for generations by traditional healers. Kasali nodded, relaxed, and said nothing more. The black foam slid down his body, clinging to him for a moment, then vanished into the drain like a shadow running from light. When Kasali stepped out, wrapped in a soft towel, he felt different, as if something had left his body. He felt lighter, calmer, almost too calm. Dima was waiting in the lounge, scrolling through his phone like nothing had happened. How was it? He asked. Honestly, that might be the most peaceful 30 minutes of my life. They both laughed. It all felt normal, harmless, but behind Dima's smile, he knew exactly what had been done. The soap was no ordinary herbal blend. It was a silent key. And a door had been opened. A door Kasali didn't even know existed. 3 days later, Kasali was at his desk, buried under a mountain of paperwork. His tie was slightly loosened, fingers stained with ink, mind focused on nothing but the numbers in front of him. Suddenly, his office line rang. The sound cut through the quiet like a knife. Hello? Mr. Kasali? Yes, speaking. This is from the director's office. Congratulations! You've been selected to head the 1 billion expressway project. You'll receive the official documents before noon. Silence. Kasali's hand froze mid-air, still holding a pen. His heart skipped a beat. Sorry, what did you say? You were recommended by someone very influential. It's official. Welcome to the big league. Click. The line cut. He stared at the phone in disbelief, heart pounding, palms beginning to sweat. It actually happened. He got the contract. The very thing he used to joke about was now real. The thing that seemed impossible had just landed on his desk. But deep down, buried beneath the excitement, beneath the shock, something didn't feel right. Not at all. It was like standing in the eye of a storm. Calm on the outside, but inside, a dark wind had begun to move. It had only been 2 weeks. Kasali's life changed almost overnight. A brand new car parked in his driveway. High-level meetings with government officials. Bank alerts showing 8 digits. The expressway contract had catapulted him into a completely different world. One he used to only dream of. But just as the excitement began to settle, his phone rang again. Mr. Kasali? Yes? Your mother just collapsed. She's being rushed to the ICU. You need to come immediately. Kasali's heart dropped like a stone. He didn't even think. He flew out of his chair, grabbed his keys, and sped to the hospital, praying it was some kind of mistake. But what he saw when he arrived broke him completely. His mother, Mrs. Amina, was unconscious. Her skin was pale like ash. Her breathing was shallow, tubes wrapped across her fragile body like vines trying to hold her together. The monitors beeped softly, cold and unforgiving. The doctors spoke in hushed tones, voices heavy with bad news. She's developed acute leukemia. It's aggressive, very advanced. Kasali stood there, frozen. He couldn't understand it. Just a few days ago, she was smiling, laughing, eating her favorite food, alive. Now she was clinging to life. And the cost? Over 500K per day for chemotherapy, for transfusions, for machines that barely kept her breathing. It was 11:43 p.m. and Kasali was alone with a miracle that suddenly looked like a curse. Kasali sat alone in his sitting room, lights dim, hands on his head, the silence pressing down like a weight. His mother was still in critical condition, and the hospital bills were draining faster than the contract money could even replenish. Every beep from his phone brought dread. Another debit alert, another deduction, another reminder of how fast it was all slipping. Then the doorbell rang. He wasn't expecting anyone. He rose slowly and walked to the door. With hesitation, he opened it, and there stood Dima, calm, smiling, dressed in all black like the night itself. But something felt off, deeply wrong. You? Kasali muttered. Dima stepped inside without being invited, eyes scanning the room like he owned it. His tone was quiet but heavy. Nice place. I see the contract paid off. Kasali didn't respond. He could feel the air shift. Then Dima spoke again. This time, his voice was colder, like ice sliding into the spine. Kasali, it's time. Time for what? Kasali asked, his voice cracking. To join us, the cult, that success you got, that expressway contract. It didn't come from your CV. It came from us, from me, from what you bathed with that day. Kasali stood up slowly, disbelief flooding his face. You're mad! Did I ever beg you to help me? I never asked for this! Dima laughed, low and slow, like someone who'd been waiting years for this exact moment. Yes, you did, that night at the cafe, when you said you wanted to change your life, when you said you wanted more, that was all I needed. Kasali's fists clenched, knuckles white with rage. His voice trembled, but the anger beneath it was hot and real. You tricked me. You used me. You gave me that black soap, knowing I didn't know what it was. You forced me into something spiritual without my consent. He stepped forward, his eyes burning with betrayal and fury. You're not a friend, Dima. You're a snake. Dima's smile faded. You think this is about friendship? Dima said, his voice colder than the air in the room. This is about exchange. A door was opened, and now it's your turn to enter. If you don't, your money will dry up, your mother will not survive, and you'll either lose your mind or your life. Silence. The words hung in the air like smoke from a burning shrine. Kasali's breath grew heavy. His chest rose and fell in uneven waves. He turned away, unable to look at Dima any longer. His eyes were wet with tears that blurred everything around him. He had been betrayed by the only person he thought was lifting him up, the one who gave him hope, the one who smiled and said, "You deserve it." Now, he had a choice to make, and no matter what he chose, something would break. Back in the present, inside the hospital room, cold lights hummed overhead. Machines beeped steadily in the background. Kasali sat beside his mother's bed, his hand clutching hers like it was the last rope holding him together. With a heavy voice, barely above a whisper, he said, "Dima, he tricked me. He gave me a soap at a spa, said it was just a cleansing ritual. But it wasn't. It was spiritual, a sacrifice. And now he says, if I don't join their cult, I'll die or lose everything." There was a moment of pure stillness, like the entire room froze. Then suddenly her frail body jerked upward, eyes wide, voice cracking out with a raw force no one expected. "What, my son?" Her voice rang out louder than any machine. "Someone made you do this?" The heart monitor spiked. "You mean someone used you for something you didn't even understand? You were forced into it?" Tears poured from Kasali's eyes, each one hot with guilt and sorrow. "Mom, I didn't know. I swear I was desperate. I thought I was just taking a break at a spa. I didn't know I was stepping into something dark." Her hands trembled. She tried to push herself up, strength pulsing from somewhere deep, but her body collapsed back, too weak to carry the fire in her heart. "You are my son. You are not theirs. Don't let them take you." Her voice was cracked, but her spirit wasn't. Kasali leaned forward and gently pressed her back down against the pillow, trying to calm her, his voice shaking. "Please, Mom, don't stress yourself. I'm so sorry. I didn't know who I was dealing with." She gripped his hand tighter, knuckles white, veins trembling. "Then listen to me," she said. "No matter what, don't lose your soul, even if you lose everything else." Tears streamed down both their faces, tears of regret, of love, of a looming goodbye that neither wanted to face. And outside that room, the world kept turning, machines kept beeping, and the clock kept ticking. In the hospital hallway around 2 a.m., Kasali stepped out to get water. The corridor was quiet, cold tiles underfoot, flickering lights humming overhead. When he returned to the room, he froze. A tall, shadowy figure stood silently beside his mother's bed. His heart jumped. He lunged for the switch and flipped on the light. There was nothing there. But his mother's eyes were wide open, staring, glazed with fear. And then she whispered, barely audible, "They've come." Before he could ask what she meant, clap. A slow, deliberate clap echoed behind him. Kasali spun around. Dima was standing in the corner, half in shadow, dressed in black. His face was calm, too calm, like someone who had already written the ending. "Even now," Dima said quietly, "the terms have changed." Kasali's heart pounded against his chest like a trapped bird. "What are you talking about?" Dima stepped closer, his voice turning cold and final, the tone of a man delivering a death sentence. "Whether you join us or not, your mother is already part of the price." Kasali's eyes widened. "What?" Dima nodded slowly. "Yes, Kasali, the moment you used that soap, it wasn't just your body that was touched. The sacrifice needed a bond, and the strongest bond is blood." Kasali's knees buckled slightly, his breath hitched, his world spun. "You used your mother unknowingly. That is why she fell sick the moment the money came. That's why she's dying." He staggered back, his breath caught in his throat like something sharp. Dima's voice became soft, cruel. "So now the choice is yours. Join us and still lose her, or refuse and both of you die slowly, in poverty, in pain, forgotten." Silence swallowed the room. Kasali turned his head slowly to his mother, barely breathing, wrapped in tubes, surrounded by machines, her frail hand twitching, tears welling in her tired eyes. Then he looked at Dima, his so-called friend, the devil in disguise. Then slowly, Kasali looked upward. His eyes glistened under the sterile hospital lights. He whispered, "I will." And that wraps up part 1. What do you think Kasali chose? To save himself and lose his mother, or die with her and reject the darkness? Part 2 coming soon. Please subscribe to Dark African Stories for more tragic stories like this. See you soon.